Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another edition of the Indie Power Hour, Santa Clarita International Film Festival. I know I said film, but it's also music and comedy. So part of that is our Indie Power Hour podcast. I was chatting a little bit with our guest today before we started recording, and I said I remember it when I called it a radio show. But, I guess we're calling it a podcast this day. So joining us on our podcast today is Dallas Hodge.
You told me, baby, that you want a new car. I can't believe how far you are. How you doing, little darling? It's been a long, long time. Went down to the crossroads, fell down on my knees. Said, I remember when I saw you outside the hall. I knew right then that I would fall.
Former frontman of the band Canned Heat, and still going strong, or maybe even stronger, I would say, as a solo artist. Dallas, thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me in.
And hopefully this is going to be fun for you. Like I said, I won't bite unless you ask me to, but it's gentle. It's more like more like a golden retriever's bite is what it is. So
it's always fun to be appreciated and people caring. So you can say or do whatever makes the little heart go pitter patter.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Well, then you just opened up Pandora's box, my friend. You just opened up Pandora's box. I'm giving you fair
welcome to my world.
Well, Dallas, I was talking to Joanne, our producer, right before we came on, and she said that, this guy has been around and he has played with some real big names out there. And I was looking at your bio and I was just like, wow. And so, you describe your musical style as Motor City rock and rhythm and blues because you were raised in Motor City, Detroit, Michigan. I mean, is that why you call it that, or?
I was born and raised there, and a gentleman that was a temporary manager for me out of Idaho, he was the one that came up with that moniker of Motor City style rock and rhythm and blues. And
nice.
That was several years back, and I've kept it in my bio ever since because I like how it explains. It's like when people ask me, well, what kind of music is it? And I always say, and young people, they don't know these people, but I ran into that yesterday with somebody, and I say, you ever heard of Bob Seger?
And they're like, who?
Have you ever heard of Bonnie Raitt?
And they're like, who?
Have you ever heard of Dr. John?
Right, and they're like, who? Oh, right, exactly.
and have you ever heard of Little Feat?
I got 3 for 4, so I guess I'm not too bad. But go ahead.
Well, I tell them, I said, if you throw all that into a blender, that's what I do.
I like it. I love it. And I mean, I've listened to a couple of the songs we're going to play on the program today, but, impressive bio, like just wow. And I mean, you've played music with everyone, Johnny Winter, Buddy Guy, B.B. King. I mean, I don't want to steal your thunder, but, take us down memory lane for a second. Like, how did that happen? Where'd you go? Who was your favorite to go on tour with? All of the above.
Well, I've opened up shows for so many people, I can't remember them all anymore, to be quite honest with you. I have what's called CRS, which I don't know if I can say it all or not. It's called Can't Remember, and you can think what the S is.
Oh, no, you can say, don't worry about it. We're not on a local radio station, so that's the beauty of a podcast. You can say things, and we don't mind, and we have to blurp it out. We'll blurp it out. No.
Well, my Hodge always used to say, people have that. She goes, when you can't remember something, just tell him you got CRS. And the first time she said that, I asked, no, what does that mean? She goes, can't remember shit.
I think I'm going to steal that. I'm just warning you about that. When people point a finger at me, I'm going to be like, I got CRS. Sorry. So
I met Johnny Winter when I was, I think I was 15 years old.
Oh, my Lord.
And when he would come to Detroit after that point, he and his old road manager, Teddy Slatus, they would usually make it a point to stop by my Hodge's house on the east side of Detroit, come over and have fried chicken and biscuits and gravy and mashed potatoes. And I was one of the few people that Teddy felt safe that if I picked Johnny, that's my son pulling in.
Oh, okay.
That if Teddy, he always felt safe when John was in our hands. He knew that he wouldn't be able to get into any kind of mischief. Although we did get into some mischief. We sit down in the basement. I remember one time, and John's favorite drink was vodka, and we're sitting down in the basement, and we cracked a bottle, and he got on the drums, and I got on guitar, and we sat there just as a duo, just drinking and playing music and having a good old time.
And please tell me you recorded that session, because that's usually not that I need to encourage any typical rock and roll behavior, but that's usually when the brilliance comes out. So I was just curious.
That was back in the early 70s. So no, we didn't record it. We were just having fun, and Ma would come down every once in a while and check on us, and she'd even sing a tune with us or something. So, she sang, my father sang, my grandfather, who passed away 3 months before I was born, played 33 different instruments.
Oh my Lord. So you come from a family of music and creativity, it sounds like.
Yes.
Yeah, I had to jump on one thing, because you told me everything I needed to know about you by saying Detroit, not Detroit, like a lot of people say these days. Like that says everything I need to know about you. I learned when I went down to New Orleans the first time. I was at a club down there and was talking with the bartender, and I said, "So, how do you like living here in New Orleans?" And he looked at me in a shock. He goes, "Dallas, we don't call it New Orleans. Northerners call it New Orleans." Nolans.
I said, "How do you say it?" And that was it, Nolans. I said, Nolans. "Oh, I have to remember that one," and I never forgot that lesson.
Even I knew that one, and I'm a northerner. Well, northerner by way of to LA, like most of us, but still. And some of the best music I heard down in New Orleans, but that's another story for another day.
Day.
So tell me, how did you start your first band with your brother in Detroit? Catfish Hodge, right?
He had been going out as the Catfish Band for years. And when the band played New York City, one of the writers there that did an article on them, they were playing at the Fillmore East, and they called him out as Catfish Bob Hodge. Well, that eventually turned into Catfish. And in 1971, I think it is, we put together a band with Fish, a bass player named Billy Landless, who was nicknamed Pops, because he was the elder statesman of the band at that time. Another guy named Alan Warrington, we called him Shaky Al for all the obvious reasons. A drummer named Pat Freer, and a keyboard player named Bob Babbage. And that became the Catfish Hodge Band. So that's when we came out with the first album with the band, which was called The Boogeyman Gonna Get Ya, which we actually got airplay on CKLW's, believe it or not, all because one song on the record was listed as having Canadian content because we added the engineer's name to the record, who lived in Toronto where we recorded it. So we never, it was hard to get on a Canadian station at that time, but CKLW was one of the largest, still is one of the largest AM stations in the metropolitan Detroit and Windsor area. They were back at that time, you could get them all the way down to Kentucky because of the fact that they had 50,000 watts of broadcast power. So that was when the band originated. And that band lasted, I think it was like 2-3 years, somewhere around there. And then Fish decided that he wanted to go and do something else, like a lot of leaders do, even though he was my brother, that didn't matter. And that's what he did. And eventually he did solo stuff, and then eventually he put together a band called the Blues Busters with Paul Barrere from Little Feat, Freebo on bass from Bonnie's band back at that time, Larry Zach on drums, and T. Lavitz on keyboards. And they put out 2 albums.
You just dated yourself by saying albums, by the way, just so you know.
Hey,
and I just dated myself by understanding what you said, but that's a different.
I'm proud of my heritage. I've made it to be 69 years old, for God's sake.
Hey, I say stuck record all the time, and people are like, "What?" And I was like, "It's called vinyl. Enjoy it." So
yes, now it's starting to get popular again.
It is. Although it's really funny because when I'm going off on a tangent, but when I was a little kid, I could not touch my dad's vinyl or his record player. That I was not allowed to, because heaven forbid my grubby little hands were to cause those things to get scratched. So to me, it was this amazing thing that you could not touch.
I was not allowed to touch my parents' 78 recordings.
I do not know what that is, but I'll take your word for it.
78 was a speed like a 33, like an album. Only thing is that it was a really, really hard plastic. It wasn't vinyl. So if you dropped it, it broke and shattered.
Oh, okay.
So it was after so many years of that, that's when they developed vinyl records, which, you could still scratch, but you had a hard time breaking them if you dropped them.
Right. So we were talking about, you being, all over and have traveled and been on the road for, my God, how many years have you been traveling and been on the road at this point?
Well, I started playing in 1966. I started traveling when I was 16. That's when I went out with my brother's band at that time, which was just the Catfish Band. I started out, I was doing roadie work for him at the time, believe it or not. But I took a break in the mid-90s from touring because I had 2 sons. So my wife, she worked a full-time job, and I stayed home and played Mr. Mom. And that took me off the road in 1998. Put my guitar down and needed a break. Put it under the bed, and I didn't touch it for a year. And then one day I was sitting down in the family room, and Eric Clapton came on with his 5-piece blues band at the time. And I sat there and I'm like going, okay, you got to pick up the guitar and you got to go back doing what you got to do. So I called my good friend David Woodford, who was the sax player with Bonnie Raitt for years. And we had been working together. Started with the Hodge brothers out here in LA. And I said, Woody, I got the itch again. I said, if you know anybody that's looking for a guitar player or singer, I said, throw my name in the hat. So a couple of weeks later he called me on the phone. He goes, Hodge, he goes, I just did some sessions with Canned Heat. He goes, and they're looking for a new singer frontman. I said, okay. He goes, I threw your name in the hat for you. I said, thanks, Woody. I appreciate it. So a 3 weeks went by, and then I got a phone call from Skip Taylor, who was the manager, and had me come down and meet with him at the house and bring down some tapes showing him, what I could do. He already knew who I was, but he wanted to hear me, up close and personal. So that was fine. And it went from there. Went down and did an audition with the full band, and came back and did a second audition for the full band, and then they wanted me to come back a third time. I said, Skippy, I said, I'd be happy to come back and do it a third time. I said, but y'all got to do me something. He goes, what's that, Dallas? I said, well, you either got to start paying me for cartage of my gear or give me a job. He goes, you're hired.
And they gave you a job. There it is.
So that's how my thing started with Canned Heat.
So I mean, I'm kind of glad you brought up, Woody's name, right? Like, because obviously, we lost him earlier this year, and, just a great musician, great saxophonist. You told us a little bit of the story just now, but how did you go from being a fan into working with him?
I have to tell you, I did a eulogy for him at the wake service, the entire wake. I loved him. That's the best thing I can say. I met Woody. He was still playing with Bonnie Raitt at the time, and I was living in Santa Cruz, which is the place that got me to the West Coast from Detroit first. My business partner had moved up there a year before I did from Detroit. and was waiting for me to get out there. And so we had a band up there, and I moved down to Southern California, chasing the dream as always. And Woody said, if you ever get down this way, give me a call. So I had sat in and played that one night that they were in Santa Cruz. They played at the Catalyst. And Bonnie invited me to come up on stage and play. And I was like, oh, okay, I can do this. And came up, and we just had a hell of a time, just a big ball. And so when I got down to LA, I gave Woody a call, and we started from there. And it started with the Hodge brothers. And the Hodge brothers band was, I say there's two bands in my life that have been the best bands I ever worked with, and the Hodge brothers is at the top. It had Marty Greb on piano and saxophone, one of the original Buckingham members. Had David Woodford on saxophones and keyboards as well. Larry Zach again on drums. A keyboard player from Tulsa, Oklahoma, who was with Seeger for a while, named Skip Van Winkle. And he had a band at the time back in the day when I was still in Detroit called Teagarden Van Winkle. And they had one big hit that came out that was called God Love Rock and Roll. And then he and David Teagarden joined Bob Seeger to do Smokin' OP's record. So he played with the band, and the big key on Skip Van Winkle was he's the only keyboard player I ever knew that did this as well as he did. He played Hammond organ with both hands, and he kicked bass pedal with both feet.
Wow.
So we didn't have a bass player because he was the bass player. And people were always just blown away. I mean, Steve Gadd, Bonnie Raitt, Jimmy Smith, they would come in and see the band and just be floored of how he performed the way he did. And we lost him a few years ago too, before Woody passed away. And again, we did a big thing for him here at the Legion Hall down in Newhall, which that whole thing is on video on YouTube from the whole thing. I mean, there was tons of people there. Sean Murphy and not Sean Murphy, Marcy Levy, who was with Eric Clapton for a while, co-wrote Lay Down Sally and some other songs. And it was just one great gig. So that's how I met David Woodford, and he played with me all the way up until the time that he quit playing.
Wow.
He played with me. We played with us with the Hodge Brothers band. And then I had several sessions after that where he was in the band. And it was always just, for me, he was primarily in my lifetime, he was the best sax player on the face of the planet.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of people who would definitely agree with you on that. And I mean, the respect he had just from the musical community, right? Like even just some of the names you just mentioned it's beyond impressive. Beyond impressive.
Yes. At his wake, there was a lot of musicians there. Some of the musicians I had known by reputation only. Some of them I had known, but wasn't really close to. But were telling me stories of how he introduced them to other people that they went on to play with big names as well. So Woody was one of those. He was a good guy, and I well up every time I think of him.
Well, I don't want you crying on this. We're not going to do an Oprah call or anything like that. But so let's pivot a little. It's not going to be a great segue, but we're going to pivot. We're going to pivot a little.
Go right ahead.
Well, I love that you touched on, the Legion being, one of these locations. And I actually, I'm going to say this for our listeners, people just don't realize how eclectic and how much talent and how much creative spirit is up in Santa Clarita. And, we personally are going to next year start doing a monthly concert series at the Legion and start spotlighting, great musicians, especially independent musicians, or musicians who've just been hacking at it for years, which, deserve mad respect, such as yourself. But, a lot of people, quite frankly, which is interesting to me, other than if you live here or you kind of, start to learn about our community, goes, Santa Clarita, what? Oh, Magic Mountain. Yeah. You know, and
Yeah.
so what's really interesting to me is I always, you know, everybody's got a story about what brought them up here. And I mean, you were on the road, you've seen a ton of places. You could, you know, you could have lived down in LA. You could have, I mean, what brought you to Santa Clarita? Like, why did you say Santa Clarita? That's where I'm going to settle. That's where I want to build this community. I want to, you know, I want to partner with, you know, the Legion or, you know, play at these little places. Right. And we'll talk a little bit about like how you still play at the Smokehouse in Newhall as one of your regular gigs in a bit, but Santa Clarita, why? Question mark. You know?
Well, I moved from Santa Cruz after I got finished with my stint up there. I had Bonnie's old drummer, Dennis Whitted, playing in my band up there, and a few other great guys. Dale Ackerman, who worked with the Doobie Brothers for a while and still does from time to time. But I came down here chasing the dream, and that's when we put my brother at that time was still living in Washington, D.C., and he was moving out here. So that's when we put the Hodge Brothers band together, and it started from there. We ended up getting a producer whose name is Brian Ahern, who was a big producer. He produced Chris Christopherson. He was married to, oh goodness, I'm forgetting her name, Emmylou Harris.
Mm-hmm.
He put out several albums for Emmylou. He shopped us around trying to get us a record deal, and it was always the same thing because we were such an eclectic kind of sound.
Mm-hmm.
The record companies always said, well, how do we describe you? You know, basically, what pigeonhole can we put you in that would be doable?
Mm.
And I said, you know, we said, that's up to you all. We're giving you the music. You all got to take care of the rest of that business
Right.
stuff.
Package it, market it, and sell it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
mm-hmm.
And because of that, we didn't get a deal, and the band, you know, it lived as long as it could live, and that was that. That brought me from Santa Cruz down to Los Angeles. And I first moved here. I lived the first year with my wife. We were in Arleta, and the second year we bought a house in Canoga Park. And 4 years later, we saw a house come up for sale out here in a new housing tract in Agua Dulce, which is where we live. And so we sold the house in Canoga Park, moved out here, and never turned and looked back. And we've been here since 1988.
Wow, 1988. Wow. Okay. Well, let's start delving into some of the music. And the first song I want to spotlight is, you know, You've Been Asking Too Much with Coco Montoya, who is known to be left-handed, playing a left-handed guitar with a right-handed neck, right? Which is essentially upside down.
That's my boy.
And so how long have you known Coco?
I met Coco when we had the Hodge Brothers together. We were playing on Sunday afternoons at a kind of like a jam session at the bowling alley on Ventura Boulevard, Tampa Lanes. And Coco came out the very first time and brought his guitar with him. And I didn't know who he was at the time. Come walking in and he said, are you letting anybody sit in? I said, well, can you play? Because I didn't know him from Adam. I said, can you play? He goes, yeah, I can play. I looked at him, I said, then you can get up on the stage with us and play. And he did. And that was the beginning of a very good friendship. And I've known him, I think, around since 1983, 84, somewhere in there. And we did some playing together here and there along the way. And when it came time to do this record, Don't Forget About the Music we made, I called him and I said, Coco, would you come and play on my record? He goes, yeah, when do you want me? He came down to the studio and we ran over the tracks. I asked him to play on two songs. One was Crossroads and one is the title of that CD. And actually, no, Asking Too Much and Crossroads. And I said, you find doing it? He goes, oh yeah. We sat there and we worked on the tracks. I don't know, we probably took about 10, 15 takes on each one until everybody was real satisfied with what they did. And when we were done, everybody shook hands and went, oh yeah, this is happening. And that's what happened with them. It's a pleasure working with them, and I would work with them again anytime. Matter of fact, I might end up having him come and do some recording on this new record that I'm working on.
Oh, a new record. Did you hear that, everyone? Just broke right here. Just broke right here. Well, tell me a little bit about Asking Too Much, and then we're just going to jump right in and play it.
Well, there used to be a club up here over off of Sand Canyon and Bergie's Bar, which was made infamous by the last owners, which I won't go there.
Mm-hmm.
But it had a real comfortable setting, Lisa. It was it held about 75 people if you sat them on top of each other's laps.
It's actually right around the corner from where I live. I live down Sand Canyon. So,
okay.
Yeah, I know Bergie's well. I know Bergie's well.
It was a fun place to go because it was one of the few, when you're doing what I do, it's very difficult sometimes to go out and write stuff off the cuff live,
mm-hmm.
Because the stages that you're playing on and such. I mean, it's hard, it's hard to do sometimes. Bergie's afforded the luxury. It really was a luxury that the fans that came there were so happy that, they were hearing good music all the time because Chuck Strong was the one that brought the entertainment there.
I didn't know that. I had no idea. Chuck Strong's actually our programming director, right? For SCIFF. I didn't know if you knew that. Yeah. He's doing the music programming for SCIFF. So I didn't know he was doing Bergie's as well. How interesting.
He brought the music to Bergie's.
Gotcha.
He had a Tuesday night jam that went on, which I played in the house band for the most part. And it afforded me to have the luxury to sit there and just call chords and call grooves and make up lyrics as I went. And that's where Asking Too Much came from.
Almost like you guys were workshopping while you were on stage and then you found it.
Yeah. And I mean, I wrote probably a half a dozen songs or more doing that gig on Tuesday nights.
Well, then you know what? Let's not keep people waiting. Let's listen to Asking Too Much. Here it is, everyone.
Let it roll.
You told me, baby, that you want a new car. I can't believe how far you are from thinking things that I want to keep. You know. I told you, baby, that I love you so. I want to love you till we grow. I can't stand what you do to me. 'Cause you know. You've been asking too much. You've been asking too much. You've been asking too much. Play it,
thank you again for joining us. We just heard Asking Too Much, and I want to dig into. I want to keep on this role of like playing local, our local Santa Clarita venues, right? And even though you're always touring, it seems like you like to keep it close to home. And it's from what I'm hearing already is. It's a big community, right? So Smokehouse in Newhall is one of your regular gigs as well, I take it, right? And how many times do you play there? Where can people, like, when can they find you?
The best way to find out where we're playing is to go to the website, DallasHodge.com. There's a tour schedule there all the time. We haven't been really touring that much, although since the pandemic time hit. And since that point in time, a lot of venues went under completely. A lot of venues stopped having live entertainment because of all the concerns of the COVID situation. So the dates have been far and few in between. We were going to try and head out and do something else, but timing and financing is always an issue.
Yep. So basically you're just keeping it close to home for now? Is what
for now, like. Until we can get something rocking. I want to finish the new CD and get it out, and hopefully we can hit Billboard again. And only this time, hopefully, we won't have a pandemic happen 9 months after we release the record.
Well, what's really interesting is, and this is one of the questions I was actually going to ask, is, this album got listed in Billboard's magazine's music charts in its first week of release. Second week. Okay. Second week of release. Yes. I mean, do you happen to remember any quotes from the magazine or anything you want to kind of call out? I mean, I love that it did so well, especially considering like how it came together.
It surprised us too. The producer that I have, Kelly Milionis, and his sister Tracy, they were the ones who were really responsible for organizing all of the advertising and all of the communication with All Access and, couple of other plays, My Venue, I think it's called. And the record came out on July 12th. On July 27th, it actually hit the charts at number 7. Billboard didn't say much about it, but the thing that was the big cap on it, for me anyway, the Billboard has this thing called heat seekers. And that basically, you make heat seekers if they really think that you are an up and coming artist to be heard. And we landed on heat seekers at the same time, at the same number 7. And I had Peter Frampton on one side of me and Joe Bonamassa on the other.
That's a good group to be a part of. Very good group to be a part of. So, let's talk about the second song we're going to play then, Love So Fine. What's the inspiration for that song? I mean, was it a love song or was it just without a face and a name? Or, I mean, how did that come about?
That came about, the producer on my first record, with that record's called Reelin', his name was Tom McClure. And Tom wrote a bunch of songs for several different artists. But he wrote this song and we recorded his latest album at the time, which was a country record. And this song was a country sounding song, but I always liked the track. So I had said to him at one point, do you mind if I record this on my new record? And I'm going to re-record it, but I'm going to change it up a bit. So, I mean, if you pull up One More Rodeo, which was that CD that it was on originally with Tom, you'll definitely hear the difference between his version of it and my version of it. My version is more of an R&B, gritty kind of a version.
Agreed. Yeah, that's what I haven't heard the original, but it was actually something that stuck out to me because it seemed a little bit different than the Motor City rock and rhythm and blues, right? Like, I mean, there is that R&B to it, but it sounded a little bit more on the R&B side than that rock and rhythm, right? And the blues side. So I was just kind of curious as to what the backstory was on that one.
Yeah, I wanted to make it more R&B and as country has evolved, country is not what country used to be.
That's right.
And so I like the idea of the countryside of it, but I could hear this driving R&B side of it. And that's what we ended up doing. And I'm very proud of that record. My producer's extremely proud of it. The band is extremely proud of it. I mean, we did one really good job, and it was so disappointing and distressing when the COVID hit. All the plans that we had been doing and getting the record to climb. I mean, we got in the top 5 on the Pika chart over in the Netherlands, and
wow.
It was like COVID hit, and that just killed everything. Just lost all the momentum that we had. And I know that occurred not only for smaller acts like me, but for larger acts as well.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it really killed the touring system for 3 years.
Yep. And there's no way to get that momentum back per se now.
Well, I mean, you're starting back out now. For me, I'm starting back out at basically the bottom of the ladder again. All that momentum that was created. I'm hoping that this new CD, when we get it done and out, we've been working on now for over a year. I'm hoping that when this comes out, then we'll be able to take and drive and do the same thing one more time.
Well, let's start with listening to Love So Fine, and then we'll come back, because I actually want to pick your brain, especially when we're talking about, the creative process and the blood, sweat, and tears that artists put into this, and there's especially kind of the new frontier a little bit. But let's take a break. Let's listen to Love So Fine, and then when we come back, I'm gonna ask you a little bit of a interesting loaded question.
Okie dokie.
All right, guys, Love So Fine. Here we go.
How you doing, little darling? It's been a long, long time. Are your days as cold as my love? Are you lonely in the night? When the memories come a-calling, I close my eyes and wonder why. Then I look up on a star, wondering where or how you are. I can see your eyes so green, and a smile that's so sweet. Do you still dream the dreams that I dream? Wondering what this might have been. Does it keep you warm at night till the cold blue morning light? Don't you know that your love makes my whole world your touch? Makes my whole world your soul, makes my whole world so fine, baby. Do you still sing the songs we danced to? Every night our lips would meet. You smell that ocean calling, where we made those vows to keep. Do you feel that fate was lost? Do you feel we paid the cost? 'Cause don't you know that your love makes my whole world your touch? Makes my whole world your soul, makes my whole world so fine. Don't you know that your love makes my whole world your touch? Makes my whole world your soul, makes my whole world so fine, so fine. Don't you know that your love makes my whole world your touch? Makes my whole world your soul, makes my whole world so fine, so fine. darling. My, it's been a long, long time.
And we're back. So hope y'all like that. Yeah, you know, again, definitely go out, purchase the CD. We want to get the momentum back for these guys, right? I mean, everybody kind of came to a screeching halt. So that's why we're doing this. We're about supporting artists, you know, whether they're big or small, but especially the indies, because we know what the grind takes. And keeping that in mind, I'm really interested in picking your brain about, you know, obviously from a film side, we know the WGA is on strike right now. And one of the big things that they're on strike about is, you know, writing, and you write your own lyrics. And I'm kind of, you know, and we talked a little bit earlier, I think before that we started recording, about, you know, how people don't understand or appreciate kind of the, you know, old school, you know, like we said, records and vinyl and, you know, all that other fun stuff. And now we've got AI coming in, right? Just able to write a song, lyrics in a matter of seconds. I'm just kind of curious as to what you think about that.
I have mixed emotions and feelings about that. On one side, I think that's going to possibly hurt writers, not only in the film industry, but as far as musicians are concerned. And just the opposite side, it could also enhance the whole thing. I just saw where there's a new thing that was done AI. John Lennon, I think,
Mm-hmm.
or George Harrison, an old Beatles thing that they never released to the public, and they finished it by using an AI program. You know, I think that if it's in control, it could be a good tool, but like a lot of things, as you know, Lisa, that start out with the best intention end up being the most dangerous.
That's right. That's
And
right.
when
The road
I
to
see,
hell is paved with good intentions, right? Isn't that what they say?
I saw a couple of things about AI on TV news here 3 or 4 months ago, and they had, you know, Barack Obama and Donald Trump, and both of them were both AI, and you would have swore that it was them saying what they were saying.
Right.
And it was not them at all. And that's my biggest fear, because now, you know, some people have been complaining about the quote fake news for a while now. However, with the advent of this, you're liable to see that occur more often.
That's right. The disinformation, right? And
yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that scares me, because we already have enough issues amongst our peoples in this country.
Agreed.
That, you know, the more bad or mis or disinformation that's out there, it's just going to make us that much harder to come together as one.
Agreed. And I'm going to do a shameless plug for us, but you know, that's what we're trying to do a little bit of, right? Is, you know, we interview, musicians, artists, even our filmmakers, our visual artists. It's, you know, it's, come tell us your story, come sing us your song, you know, regardless of what genre, or, you know, unless it's something completely vile. It's like, let's hear what you have to say and let's have a conversation about it. Because to your point, it is just so divisive right now, right? Like it is just so very segmented and so very tribal. And that doesn't help, not only from a humanity standpoint, but, you know, I'm going to pull back to a creativity standpoint as well. But that's my soapbox, and I'll get off of it. But you know, and I
feel the same way, it seems.
Yeah. And I mean, also, you know, as a creative myself, you know, coming back to the AI thing, I think, you know, and this is, I think what I'm poking at a little bit as well is, you know, I see people say, you know, write me a story about X that does Y and it results in Z. And it's like, boom, this thing comes out. And it's like, what are we losing from a creative standpoint? You know, what are we losing? You know,
and it's like, you know, if it's an advanced version, as far as I can compare, to CGI.
Yeah,
if you stop and think about it, I mean, we create scenes in movies with areas in photography that's all imaging, is all CGI. None of it is real. And I think that the AI has taken the CGI to the next level. but I'm very cautious at this point about it, only because, like anything, Lisa, you know, you can use any good thing for a bad thing.
Agreed.
And but this is something that, you know, they can make you, they can make me, they can make my dog. I mean, they can make anything they want with AI.
Yeah.
And they can have us portrayed in whatever type of manner they think that they can.
That's right. Very true. Very true. Well, coming back to kind of the music part of it, right? And in you know, I mean, great line to kind of pull us back is don't forget the music we made, right? When we're talking about what AI can make, is like, don't forget. That's why I was like, don't forget the music that we made, right? But
right,
you know, my producer Joanne is from Chicago, and she was basically like, oh, I hear a little old Chicago, right? Like Chicago the band inspired sound, and you know, she was just rocking out and was just happy about all of that. But you know, I mean, the entire 9-song collection falls under that category of Americana and roots and country and pop, and we hear a little bit of everything in the song itself. But you know, again, give me a story about don't forget the music we made. Like where did that come from? I mean, I feel like that the title is so loaded. So I'd love to get some backstory on that.
Sure, that song was written in Switzerland.
Oh my Lord. Okay.
I was on tour over there. And we did a couple of house parties in the interim of the tour. And then it went from the house parties to actually playing it live on the gig. It was I was working with the gentleman over there who brought me over there on my own accord, by the name of Andy Eggert, a blues man. He has a trio over there. And he became very popular over there. And he had met me when I was playing with Canned Heat, and conversation. The next thing, I was going over there and touring with his band. And that's where that song came from. That was written about someone that I had met that became a friend. And that's what it was.
So since it was...
let me tell you, the horns... You can thank Lee Thornburg, who played with Joe Bonamassa for years. He played with the Night Show Band for years. He's played with Tower of Power. He's played with Chicago. I mean, he's played with everybody and their mother that has a horn. And I called him. He played on the first CD with me, along with David Woodford and Garrett Atkins, who played trombone. He did the second record with me on that, with him and... Zubla. I want to say Mark Zubla. It's not Mark, but he also played with Joe Bonamassa. And I said to him, you know, can you put the horn parts together for this? He wrote all the horn charts for what is on the songs that are on there. And he did the songs on the first record as well. And he goes, yeah. He goes, let's do it. And so he had the songs, he wrote the charts, he came in and performed, and that was that. He played trumpet. Yeah, if you notice you'll notice there is trumpet 1 and trumpet 2. There's trombone 1 and trombone 2. There's saxophone 1 and 2, and bari saxophone on.
Well, I will have to definitely look at the credits. I heard the song. I'll be honest. I didn't listen, but there was definitely, like I said, a lot of that.
Ron Jublia.
Got it.
Great sax player. I mean, he was at Woody's wake, and he knew Woody as well. I mean, Woody had so many musicians that had so much respect for him. I can only hope that I get one iota of that respect.
Well, hopefully we won't have to find it out that way for a very, very long time, Dallas. That's all I have to say. So that is, as they said in Gladiator, not yet. So silly question. I mean, you might have just answered it for me, but then was this recorded in Switzerland? I mean, or was it recorded here in Santa Clarita?
It was recorded here in the States at Wolf Dog Studios.
It was. Okay. Okay.
But it was written over there while I was on the road, and that's how it came about.
Oh,
But
very nice.
it was a fun song.
Yeah. And so, you know what? Let's not hold people back. Let's take a listen to Don't Forget About the Music We Made, and you guys can tell us what you think in the comments.
Remember when I saw you outside the hall? I knew right then that I would fall in love with you for a very long time. I hope that you would give me a sign. Don't forget about the music we made. Don't forget about the music we made. The time has come when we can sing a song. Makes me feel like we can do no wrong. I want to take you by the hand. We'll walk together on the sand. Don't forget about the music we made. Don't forget about the music we made. You know the years have come and gone. I thought our love was oh so strong. Time has come and we're moving down the road. I will still love you when we're old. Don't forget about the music we made. 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 Don't forget about the music we made.
All right. So after listening to that, so right now we've gone through 3 songs, and just a little bit more before we wrap up. I would love to talk about the International Blues Challenge in Memphis that you competed in back in 2017. Did you win that competition? I mean, there were 80 other bands there, right? Correct?
There was actually a grand total of like 250 from around the world.
Oh my Lord. Okay. My numbers were off.
they were there from Australia. They were there from England. They were there from just about anywhere and everywhere that you could think of. We ended up making it all the way through to the semifinals. and got bumped out at that point. However, I can say this much. I had 2 booking agents and a manager who went to the finals, which was narrowed down to 10 acts. And all 3 of them said the same thing. Not at the same time, but same thing. You should have been in the finals because there were people that were there that did not deserve to be there.
Well, I was just about to say, I mean, how is this judged? I mean, is
Well,
there?
we played at a great little room the first 3 nights. We played at a
And how
place
many
called-
days is that competition?
It's 5 days long.
Mm-hmm.
You have 3 days of pool play basically, and then 1 day of semifinals, and then the finals.
Mm-hmm.
And we were playing at a club there called Alfred's, which was a wonderful joint. The sound guy Chris was a great guy. He took real good care of us. The sound was good, the lights were good. But every night that we played, they brought in a different set of 4 judges. So everybody got rotated on the judges, no matter where you were. And then they moved us on, I think it was the 4th night, for the semifinals, to the BB King's Club. And there were good bands there. I have no complaint. I thought we were very competitive. The band thought we were very competitive. I had friends that had come in from Detroit to come and see us there with the band because that's about as close as we were getting with the whole band. And they all said the same thing. You guys should have been in the finals. I go, it's the luck of the draw. I'm not going to complain about it. It's, it is what it is. We came with the idea and the thought process that we're going to nail it, period. And we just missed the mark a little bit.
Well, it's interesting to me because I'm kind of curious as to how they judge it, but that's I guess that's a rabbit hole we could go down. Or
well, they judge it by visual, they judge it by sound, they judge it by the song. I mean, it's they when you look at the judgment sheets that they have, there's a lot of critique that goes into play. Professionalism or lack of, which, I feel that we get the professionalism with no problem. But they have, it's a pretty thorough kind of thing. It's just that, you can get the wrong judges no matter where you are and what you're doing in your life. It's the luck of the draw.
Yeah, agreed.
I actually was told that we weren't allowed to talk to the judges, but I actually had a judge come up to me on the second night at Alfred's to tell me, you guys are smoking. And I thought, uh-oh, what do I do here? I'm not supposed to talk to the judges, but he came over to me. So I figured, hey, he's going to come over to me. I'm going to be courteous and respond.
That's right. You can't push him away and say, don't talk to me.
Yeah, no, not at all. So, I mean, that we had a conversation for about 5 minutes. It wasn't very, but he expressed his feelings that he thought we were one of the best bands he had seen. And I was said, well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Hope that we get through all the way to the end, at least. So.
Well, I'm definitely going to say for those who, can come and watch you perform, there's nothing like live music. In my opinion, go watch Dallas, judge for yourself, how good a performer and how great the music is. And, and the beauty of it is, he's accessible in that he plays all these local clubs. And personally, I like those a lot better because I feel like it's really intimate and you feel and see and everything versus I personally do not like the big concert stadiums, but that's just me. I like things where it's a little bit more, there's an energetic flow between the band and you and the musician and you.
I've always enjoyed the venues that were like 1,000 seaters or smaller.
Agreed.
I mean, you can play at 1,000 seater like the Canyon Club and still feel intimate because of how the seating is.
Agreed.
As soon as you start getting above that and you go to the outdoor sheds, I played in front of as many as 40,000 people. And it's like when you get to that size, it's like you can't see the back of the audience.
Right. You can't
you know.
connect.
And you can be intimate with the first 5 rows up front, but beyond that, you got so many sound pillars going all the way back that, you just can't, you don't have that same feeling,
Agreed.
And I know when I talked to Bonnie about it once, it was like anything less than 2,500 she was happy with. But then that was back at a time when she was playing primarily those types of seating. And then she blossomed up to, 10, 15,000.
That's right.
So.
Then she became Bonnie Raitt.
There you go. Because prior to that, it was like, Bonnie who?
That's right. Well, yeah, being that, and we're going to finish up the show with your song Crossroads, which is also with Coco Montoya, correct? If I'm correct. And, but I just want to ask, as, musician again, you've been on the road, traveled all around the world. Where's the farthest from home you've traveled?
When I saw the questions, it was easy for me to pull out. Here's the 3 places where I've been that were as far away from the United States as you can get.
Mm-hmm.
One is the island of Diego Garcia in the middle of the Indian Ocean.
Oh, my Lord.
Yes, it's a British territory.
I was about to say, that's a geography question I would have failed on a test. So.
The next one was Singapore.
Okay.
And then the last one, we did a huge festival in Thailand on the island of Koh Samui. And that's about as far away from here as you can possibly get.
And what is, I'm going to add one more before we close out. What is probably the most interesting place you've ever played? And it can be big, small. It doesn't have to be a country or location. Like I've had some interesting answers come back. Like I was standing in the middle of a vegan fest or something, but what was the most interesting place you've ever played?
Oh, I think probably one of the most interesting was when we played Cognac, France. We played for what is it? The Remy Martin.
Oh, very nice. I was about to say, well, if it's Cognac, France, I suppose you all just drank cognac the whole time.
Well, there's 3 huge makers of cognac there. Remy Martin is just one of them. And the backstory on that, you'll get a good kick out of this. Our manager, Skip Taylor, he knew what Louis XIII was. It is probably the most expensive that you can buy. If you go to a bar back then, and this is back in 2002, it would have been about $125 a shot.
Wow. Okay.
Back then, the bottles were like $1,300. Now that bottle is like $4,000, I think.
Oh my goodness. Well, I hope there's gold in it. That's all I have to say.
Each bottle is handcrafted. Each bottle is numbered. Each bottle comes in a velvet red box. And Skip kept pestering the promoter, about the Remy Martin. When are we going to be able to get some of this? Well, the gal who was the president at the time was this little short woman, heavy set, very nice, very pleasant, wearing a 3-piece suit, smoking a cigar. Comes to the backstage dressing area or the green room area and comes in and has her assistant carrying this red box with this red velvet holder inside. And Skip had no idea that they were going to do this. So they ended up giving us a bottle of it as a gift, which, we took all kinds of pictures with her and her side person and, with the whole band. And it was just like, we were thoroughly blown away. It was just like, wow. We actually went to the bottle once it was done. We had shall I say, a discussion as who was going to end up with the bottle, and I lost.
And who ended up with the bottle?
It ended up going to the other guitar player.
I was about to say, is it sitting in your house? Do I need to come over?
Yeah, I wish it was, because it was a beautiful thing. I mean, it's if you're ever in a situation, there are some venues here that actually have that in stock. Not very many. I know 7th Grand downtown had one there, but most regular places don't carry, because most, unless you're in an upscale restaurant,
you're not going to order that. Yeah.
you're not going to order $125, $150, glass of that. So,
Right.
it's just not going to happen. I couldn't afford to do it. So it's like,
Well, when you become big time, you will. So when the new CD drops.
As my Hodge would say, God willing, and the creek don't rise, I'll still be here tomorrow night.
And so we talked about how people can find you, Dallas. DallasHodge.com, right, is the website.
Yes.
Any social pages that we can find you on, obviously, in case people want to know when the new CD and all the new work drops.
We have a page on Facebook called you type in the Dallas Hodge Band. If you just type Dallas Hodge, you're going to go to my own page. But if you go Dallas Hodge Band, that'll take you to the band page there. Anytime we're doing a show, it's always posted there. I always make it a point for people who sign up for the email sign up. Whenever we're playing within a 3-hour drive, everybody within that 3-hour area gets at least 2 emails, and usually 3. 1 6 weeks out, 1 2 weeks out, and 1 usually the week of, to let them know we're coming to your town. Hope you come out and support the music.
Gotcha. So go to Facebook, the Dallas Hodge Band. Get your updates on when he's going to be in your neighborhood. We're going to close out the show with Crossroads, but in the meantime, Dallas, I can't thank you enough. This has been a lot of fun. Hopefully it was a lot of fun for you.
It's always fun, like I said to you in the very beginning, for people who appreciate and care. So thank you, Lisa, for inviting me on to the show. I hope that your listeners enjoy what we've done, and hope to see them sometime at a show nearby.
I definitely will be there. I will make sure that Chuck tells me when you're playing in the neighborhood, and I will come and support, because that's what SCIFF's about. So Crossroads, everybody, as we close out. And Dallas Hodge, thank you for an amazing career, and we can't wait to see you in all the good stuff that's to come in the future.
Thank you, and thanks to the fans, because without them, I'm nothing.
Appreciate it. Appreciate you. And Crossroads, everybody. Here we go. Let's play it out.
Went down to the crossroads, fell down on my knees. Said I went down to the crossroads, fell down on my knees. I asked the Lord of love for mercy, save me if you please. Went down to the crossroads, tried to flag it right. Said I went down to the crossroads, tried to flag it right. Nobody seemed to know me, everybody passed me by. My good friend Pickett. side. Said I'm going down to Rosedale. Take my rider by my side. You can still bear a house, baby, on the riverside. JJ. You can run, till my good friend boy Willie Brown. You can run, tell my good friend boy Willie Brown. I've been standing at the crossroads